I'm here with Daniel Miller, and I met Daniel actually through common friends, Dirk and Gina Hanna. And Dirk and Gina had been working in the prisons through Beauty for Ashes. And I think it's really Dirk and Daniel that met, connected, and became good friends. And so I wanted to do an interview with Daniel. Thanks for coming and joining us today. Tell us a little bit about where you're from and kind of your early childhood experience, Daniel.
Well, I'm from Iola, Kansas. My stepdad came with 3 kids. My mom came with 3 kids, and it was a extremely volatile household, a very violent household, and for most of my childhood, it was just survival for real. Well, it might sound odd, but I had had peanut butter till I was in 4th grade. My stepdad was a in and out racist through and through. I ended up trading my lunch with a guy at school, and it was a peanut butter jelly sandwich. When I came home and I told him, man, I ate this peanut butter jelly sandwich at school, I hardly got it out of my mouth, and he was all over me. He just beat the daylights out of me because it was invented by a black guy. Peanut butter was.
So your stepdad consistently raised you with a hatred toward blacks?
Anybody, Mexican, Asian, anybody who wasn't white.
Huh. So where did that lead you?
Well, everything escalated. I started getting high. I started using cocaine all the time. My mom finally got fed up with it and kicked me out when I was in 9th grade.
Mm-hmm. So you're kind of out there and...
Yeah, we were living in a trailer, me and a bunch of older guys and a couple of gals. And we decided one night, hey, there's a sale barn out in Gas City. We can go burglarize and get some booze. And so that's what we did. And so at 15, I ended up going to prison for 1 to 5 years. The first bad experience I had was I had a black homosexual come on to me in Norton prison. And it was seen by the population, by the rest of the guys in prison. And I had a couple of members of the Aryan Brotherhood, a couple of high-ranking members come up to me and tell me, say, look, man, everyone knows that this guy came on to you, and you can't just let it ride. If you just let it ride, then you're going to be a target your whole time in here. We want to see what you're going to do. And so a couple days later, he approached me again in the gymnasium where all the workout equipment is, and I'm scared to death because I felt like I didn't have a choice. Mm-hmm. I had a choice, but I felt like I didn't. I just felt trapped. And so I waited until he came in, and before he even said a word to me, I grabbed an Easy Curl bar, which is a curved short weight bar, and I hit him as hard as I could right in the head with it. After that, a lot of things changed in prison. After that, the Aryan Brotherhood, they saw that, hey, here's this crazy white kid who will do pretty much anything. Because once I saw how people treated me after that, I knew that was the way, that's how I could survive. Mm-hmm. And not just survive, but flourish. I didn't have money coming in from anywhere, and these guys would take care of me. All I had to do was, fight a little bit or extort some people or whatever they needed done.
So you basically started becoming an errand boy for the Aryan Brotherhood in prison,
right?
Doing tasks that they assigned to you.
Right. They call it prospecting. Okay. Is before you could actually become a member of the Aryan Brotherhood, you had to prospect for them, and that's pretty much what I was. But I was like their main prospect because I was the guy who would do anything.
So after you started being prospect for the Aryan Brotherhood, eventually you did enough for them that they took you in. You got out of prison, but tell us a little bit about what happened, kind of this sort of out, then back in, out, back in.
Well, when I got out, I immediately came back within 3 months for possession of a firearm. When I go back in, it was almost like I hadn't left. I went to a different prison, but everyone already knew me because they knew my reputation from Hutchinson and from Norton. And so I just dove right back in. And actually, when I came back, I probably was a little bit higher up in the organization than I was when I left. Because, of course, everything grows as time goes by and stories grow. And so I came back in and I was doing the same thing. I wasn't there very long until I got out again. Mm-hmm. And I got out again, and it was right back to drugs. And I found myself going right back to prison again. The third time I went in, I was probably the worst I had ever been. I had so much pull within the Aryan Brotherhood that I felt like I could do almost anything. And so I started questioning leadership. I started questioning things they did. And at the same time, I was living in a cell with black guys on each side of me, and these guys would talk to me all the time. 187 to speed. They were just always talking to me. And I'd tell them, look, I'm not trying to talk to you. I got nothing to say to you. Don't ask me the time. Just shut up. But it was like 6 months. Them just sitting there talking to me all the time. And eventually, the Aryan Brotherhood got tired of me questioning their leadership. They got tired of me questioning decisions they made, hits that they wanted to do. And so they sent me to collect some money from the Mexicans. The Mexicans owed us a bunch of money for drugs. And I went down into the tunnels in Hutchinson. Underneath it, there's tunnels that just catacomb all the way underneath everywhere. And only one person would go with me, and that was a guy I grew up with. And he's the only one who would go with me. And I went down there, and I knew something was up. We had knives, and went down there, and there's probably 14, 15 Mexicans. And I knew that it was a setup. I knew that I was about to die. I just knew it. And about the time it started to happen, I heard some guy say, hey, we want a hand in this, or we got something to say about this. And I turn around, and there's two black guys who were my neighbors, 187 in speed, and they got a whole lot of Crips with them. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to get killed by both ends. Man, these guys walked up to me. One stood on each side of me. They put their hand on my shoulder, and they told the Mexican guys, they said, hey, look, this is one of our homeboys. He's with us. If you want him, you got to take us too. And it just blew me away. I'd been nothing but mean to these guys, and they saw something in me that they liked. And yeah,
wow.
they saved my life that day.
So because you were questioning some of the Aryan leaders, they basically set you up with the Mexicans to be killed. They were going to take you out.
Yeah.
But these two guys had been talking with you about what?
Nothing. They they would tell me, one thing they would always say is I was limiting myself. I was limiting my experiences in life by not including other people. That I was ignorant because all I cared about was what I and the white race was doing, and they would tell me how much I was limiting myself to the experiences of experiencing other people.
That's pretty amazing that they stepped in like that.
Yeah, it blew me away.
So tell us about how you came to follow Jesus.
So when I got out of lockdown, I decided to go to a program. It was an Ellsworth prison called Interchange Freedom Initiative. It was a faith-based program, and it gave guys the opportunity to who wanted to change their lives. Fred, I started looking at who I was, and I knew from day one that there was something missing. I wanted my life to be full. And at the end, when Don said, give me a drink, oh Lord, that's what he said when he ended the sermon. And it just broke me because I needed that drink. I needed that drink more than I needed anything in this world. And I took the drink and I got on my knees at the chair, and I started out on my knees. I ended up face down, and I cried out to him. I said, there's nothing left here. I'm nothing. I got nothing. I am nothing. But whatever it is, if you want it, I'll give it to you, because what can I possibly do with my life from this point? From that point, I didn't cuss for 2 years. And I'm got a really bad mouth.
Right.
I didn't cuss for 2 years.
Right.
There's some things that don't change right off, but there's some things that are immediate. One of the things that was immediate was the way I looked at people. I began to look at people not just like I'd always looked at them before, but I knew that I was a creation of God. And I knew when I walked out of revival that night, I saw this one loudmouth black dude that I had never liked before. When I saw him, I'm like, man, God created him just the same as he created me. He knew every hair on his head, just like me. And it was like God used that to just change my heart and the way I viewed people, no matter who they were. And especially, I still had problem with guys with cases, different cases that were kind of bad, but when it came to race, man, he changed it almost immediately.
Right.
And it blew me away, because I thought about that night. I'm like, wow, when I look out my cell door and I see black guys and Mexicans and Asians out there, I don't think about them like I used to. You know,
Right.
before I wouldn't pay you 2 minutes. You know, I'd ignore anything you had to say. I don't want to talk to you. And now it's just like, man, you see him totally different. It's a creation. You know, he spent as much time on them as he spent on me.
Right.
He had a plan for them just like he did me, and I knew that there was no place in my life for it.
Yeah.
There was so much evilness in me that whenever I began to confess my sins, I began to feel lightened. I began to feel, because I felt like my life had been covered in like a shroud of darkness and hate and violence for so long that it had just like built a canopy over me. And as I confessed my sins and as I just really put my heart into it, and I honestly felt like it was just like the shroud, the covering, the blackness that was over me just dissipated off of me. It changed some things about me immediately. You know, when I felt inside, it was almost full to bursting. I felt so full, but it was just, man, if I could have sang and danced, I would have. I mean, it was just, man, it was a joyfulness that I hadn't felt this ever. I didn't fully understand it. I ain't gonna act like I did. I didn't fully understand it, but I knew that there were things about me. I knew from that point on that my life was different. It would never be the same.
Well, Daniel, thanks for taking time to share your story with us. It's an encouraging story for us to hear how God can take a life and change it, transform it through the power of Jesus, and particularly how Jesus changed your heart to see people with His love and to see people as created in His image. We're all created in the image of God, and that's a beautiful, powerful change that Christ brought into you. So thanks for sharing, and that is really our challenge, I think, to take away from this, is to allow Jesus' love to invade our hearts with a new love for others.